Today we are making a cover for this square tissue box. So for this square tissue box cover, we are going to use cream, plum and raspberry, and these are Starcraft Special DK double knit. And although the label prescribes a 4mm hook, I am going to use a 3mm hook because I want it to be nice and tight. You also need a darning needle and some scissors. So we are going to get started with the darkest color, and I am going to make a slip knot. There we go. Insert your hook, and we are going to do 36 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3, 34, 35, 36. And now I am going to attach this end here to the start, so to my first chain, making sure you haven't twisted your chain. I generally pick up 2 legs of my stitch, and I am going to do a slip stitch to close up my round. There we go. Okay. And now we are going to start doing our granny clusters. So a granny cluster is 3 double crochets, and we are going to start by doing 2 chains up. So this will count as a double crochet. Okay. And now I am going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and in the 3rd stitch we are going to place our first granny cluster. So that means 3 double crochets, and a double crochet is yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's a granny cluster. Now we're going to do another one. 1, 2 in the 3rd stitch, and again 3 double crochets in the same stitch. Then we are going to make a corner, so in the 3rd stitch again, so skipping 2 stitches into the 3rd stitch, we are doing a granny cluster. So that means 3 double crochets. Then we do a chain, and we do another granny cluster in that same stitch. So 3 double crochets. There we go. Okay. Now we do a granny cluster in the 3rd stitch again. And another granny cluster into the next 3rd stitch. So we are skipping 2 stitches and working in the 3rd stitch each time. And it's time again to make a corner. So again in the 3rd stitch you insert, and we are going to do a granny cluster, a chain, and a granny cluster in the same stitch. So the first round is the most important because obviously this is the opening of our box. We need to make the hole, this one, as big as the opening of our box. So now 1, 2 into the 3rd stitch again, a cluster. And another cluster in the 3rd stitch. So basically we're doing a corner and 2 clusters on each side. Okay, and yep, you guessed it, corner. No, I think I went into the, what is it, 1, 2, yeah, the 3rd stitch. I'm okay. So always check. Best to check. So we're doing a corner again, chain 1 and another granny cluster into that same hole there in the same stitch. There we go. Now we're doing the last side. So that means we are doing a granny cluster in the 3rd stitch. And again, another granny cluster in the 3rd stitch. And then here you should have 2 stitches left, and then you have that stitch where the chain is coming out. So I am going to go into that 3rd stitch here, and I am going to do a granny cluster. So 3 double crochets, a chain, and another 2 double crochets into that same stitch. So 2 double crochets, because of course this chain counts as a double crochet. Oh, sorry, my wool split a bit. There we go. And then you go into that stitch here and you do a slip stitch, and that has closed up the round and that has made a corner. Okay, so if you get your box, you will see that it fits nicely round the hole. It is not oval because we need to make it square because of the shape of the box. Okay, so you can now cut off your wool and pull this through like so. So this is our first round, and this has made the opening for our cover. So second colour. Now I have been using standing stitches on this project, so let me just show you how to do that. You do a slip knot and you put it around your hook, and now you're just going to pretend that you are coming from here somewhere, so you're as if you were just crocheting. So we're doing double crochets, so we yarn over into the opening between the clusters, you pull through and you pull through. There we go, and we've started, and that eliminates the need to do a chain or to sort of attach your wool and to then chain up. This way it's a lot neater and a lot easier, I think. Anyway, so we do granny clusters in between the clusters. When we meet a corner, we are going to make a corner. So let's see if we can make a corner, and a corner is 2 granny clusters divided by a chain. So let's do first of all 3 double crochets, a chain and another granny cluster. And another one. There we go, double crochets. There you go. See, we've made a corner, and then we work our way round the whole work, doing granny clusters on the sides and then corners in the corner. So I've come to the end of my round here, and I am just going to go under this stitch here, so sort of not that very first one because that sort of tends to disappear almost, and we're making an extra stitch by doing a slip stitch anyway. So I tend to go under the V of the second double crochet and I do a slip stitch like so. Now you cut off your yarn and you will see that your end that you started is at the same height as your finish, and that's quite handy because then you can I tie them together and then generally I just take them along in the next round, so you don't have to sew them in, or you can sew them in and you can even do them together because they are together. There we go. Okay, so that is my first 2 rounds of my cover for my box here. And as you can see now, really we've covered the top, so now we need to start the sides already. Okay, and to do the sides we are just going to do again granny clusters, but we are no longer making corners. We're just going to put 1 granny cluster in each corner, and you will see that it will bring it down. So let's go for the 3rd color, and I'm doing a standing stitch, so I'm going to pretend I am coming from, you know, just there, already working at that height. And I don't know whether you can actually see, look, this is my stitch. I yarn over as usual. I keep tension here, and then I go in, and I've got my loops to use to make my double crochet, and off we go. Now obviously if you can't manage a standing stitch, just hook it under, do a chains up, how many chains you do, and then start your double crochets. So here we go. So again, you are placing your clusters in between the clusters from the previous round, and that's how you're going to go round. And now that we come to a corner, you are not going to do a corner there, but you're just going to do 1 granny cluster. Yeah, and now you just go on to the next space in between the next 2 clusters, and you don't do a corner. Okay, and immediately you will see that it goes down, see? And if you put it over your box, you will see that you've got a corner and it's going down. So continue your round, and then just continue doing rounds each time with, like I showed you, with a standing stitch, and just continue going round. You don't need to worry about making corners or anything like that. All you do is place a granny cluster in between the granny clusters from the previous round, and it should just be the same amount of granny clusters in each row, because we're not going to go out, we're not going to increase or anything like that. We are just going straight down. So I will catch up with you in a few moments, I should say, in a few rounds maybe, to show you how I am progressing, and then I will show you the finished product at the end again. Right, see you later. Okay, so this is how far I got at the moment. So I'm about halfway, well, not really halfway, but yes. And I think it's going well. So I've got another bit to do, and I'll see you at the end. So here's a picture of the finished article. I had great fun making these, and as you can see, I changed colour in every row. You don't have to, you can use the same colour if you want to. So I made some others as well, so do look out for those videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!